Yeah, all right. Happy Friday, Rumbleverse. Made it through another week. Congratulations. All right, welcome to Talk Nerdy to Me. Thank you for joining me once again. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you never miss an episode and you stay up to date on the latest cybersecurity news. You can also join me on Locals for exclusive content that I can't share on Rumble, unfortunately. As always, I will share the links to these articles in the video description for anyone that wants to do a deeper dive into these topics. All right, let's get into it. We have a lot to cover as usual. Sorry for my voice ahead of time. I was sick for a few days, so it's still a little raspy. Um, Hope you can understand me. Anyways, here we go. Cyber threats against school systems are increasing. School systems around the country are increasingly the target of threat actors who see the learning institutions as soft targets. For IT workers who are already overstretched in their positions within school systems, that means headaches on top of headaches. Threat actors believe schools are vulnerable and underfunded, so they think they're a very good target. This is according to John Genter, the VP of Security and Cloud Operations at EdTech security firm Lightspeed Systems. He said this during a webinar on school cybersecurity on October 20th. The first thing you need is a strategy, added one of the panelists, Troy Neal. Neal, who is the executive director of cybersecurity and technology operations at Houston area Spring Branch Independent School District, listed off the precautions he takes. I've got a 5-tier strategy. I've got air gap solutions and our co-location and our disaster recovery site. I've got good old USB hard drives that are critical. I've got a cloud copy as well in multiple cloud providers, also validating the backups. But I mean, overall, you got to start with a strategy and a roadmap. This is according to Neil. Part of that roadmap is staff awareness. It's the best method to combat attacks. Neil said that his team uses a very stringent onboarding process for software that tries to address any and all breach holes and demands the same of vendors. But those vendors can be a source of weakness for bad actors looking for vulnerabilities. School districts, for the most part, are required to publish information on both vendors and apps on their sites, public information that can open the door to attacks. Districts should balance the requirements of the law and the need for parents to understand what resources are being used by their children with security concerns. It's a delicate balance. Districts should err on the side of sharing enough information with the community, but not more than is necessary. Schools will continue to present attractive targets to cybercriminals. They're valuable, vulnerable, and accessible, and organized groups are going to be able to take advantage of flaws in the system. People need to start realizing that these threat actors don't just go after high-profile targets. Many more attacks take place towards targets that are considered soft targets, such as these. FBI wanted leader of the notorious Zeus Botnet gang arrested in Geneva. A Ukrainian national who has been wanted by the US for over a decade has been arrested by Swiss authorities for his role in a notorious cyber criminal ring that stole millions of dollars from victims' bank accounts using malware called Zeus. Vyacheslav Igorovich Pinchukov, who went by online pseudonyms Tank and Father, is said to have been involved in the day-to-day operations of the group. He was apprehended on October 23, 2022, and is pending extradition to the U.S. Details of the arrest were first reported by independent security journalist Brian Krebs. Pinchukov, along with Ivan Viktorovich Klepikov, a.k.a. Petrovich and Nowhere, and Alexei Dmitrievich Bron, a.k.a. The Head, was first charged in the District of Nebraska in August 2012. According to court documents released by the U.S. Department of Justice in 2014, Pinchukov and 8 other members of the cybercriminal group infected thousands of business computers with Zeus, which is capable of stealing passwords, account numbers, and other information relative to log into online banking accounts. These captured credentials were then used to siphon funds from the accounts, with the DOJ calling the Jabber Zeus gang a wide-ranging racketeering enterprise. The Zeus banking Trojan is believed to have been authored by an anonymous individual who is only known by the handle Lucky12345, a Wired report from 2017 said, describing Pinchukov as a well-known local DJ with a penchant for high-end BMWs and Porsches. More importantly, machines infected by the endlessly adaptable malware could be folded into a botnet whose power can be harnessed to carry out distributed denial of service (DDoS) attacks. A successor to Zeus known as Game Over Zeus, and which functioned as a peer-to-peer botnet, was temporarily disrupted in 2014 as part of an international law enforcement operation called Tovar. All the defendants have been accused of conspiracy to participate in racketeering activity, conspiracy to commit computer fraud and identity theft, aggravated identity theft, and multiple counts of bank fraud. Two of his co-conspirators, Yevhen Kalibaba, aka Johnny, and Yuri Konovalenko, aka JTK0, pleaded guilty in November 2014 after being extradited from the UK and were sentenced to 2 years and 10 months of incarceration on May 28th of 2015. 100 apps, endless security checks. On average, organizations report using 102 business-critical SaaS applications enabling operations of most departments across an organization, such as IT and security, sales, marketing, R&D, product management, HR, legal, finance, and enablement. An attack can come from any app, no matter how robust the app is. Without visibility and control over a critical mass of an organization's entire SaaS app stack, security teams are flying blind. This is why it's important that all SaaS apps across the organization be managed at scale. While the breadth of coverage is critical, each app has its own characteristics, UI, and terminology. Mitigating these threats requires a deep understanding of all security controls and its configurations. Learn how to automate SaaS security management. Security tips need to map out the entire SaaS ecosystem within the organization, including the core SaaS apps and the numerous additional apps that employees connect to without checking or informing the security team. Each of these apps needs to be governed in identity and access, ensuring that access control, validation, including SSO governance, password policy effectiveness, identification of internal and external users, privileged role identification and mapping, validation of provisioning, deprovisioning processes, privileged user activity, monitoring, and forensics, detection of dormant and orphaned accounts. If these checks are not enough for security teams to handle, they also need to check the device posture of all their SaaS users to map risks. SaaS Security Posture Management, SSPM, is the only solution that can automate misconfiguration management, monitoring SaaS to SaaS access, harden identity and access governance, and manage SaaS risk stemming from user devices for all apps and all users. Iranian hackers compromised a U.S. federal agency network using Log4Shell exploit. The Iranian government-sponsored threat actors have been blamed for compromising a U.S. federal agency by taking advantage of the Log4Shell vulnerability in an unpatched VMware Horizon server. The details, which were shared by the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, come in response to incident response efforts undertaken by the authority from mid-June through mid-July of 2022. Cyber threat actors exploited the Log4Shell vulnerability in an unpatched VMware Horizon server, installed XMRig crypto mining software, moved laterally to the domain controller, compromised credentials, and then implanted ngrok reverse proxies on several hosts to maintain persistence. This is according to CISA. Logshell, aka CVE-2021442228, is a critical remote code execution flaw in the widely used Apache Log4 Java-based logging library. It was addressed by the open source project maintenance in December 2021. The latest development marks the continued abuse of the Log4j vulnerabilities in VMware Horizon servers by Iranian state-sponsored groups since the start of the year. CISA did not attribute the event to a particular hacking group. However, a joint advisory released by Australia, Canada, the UK, and the US in September 22 pointed fingers at Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps for leveraging the shortcoming to carry out post-exploitation activities. The affected organizations, per CISA, is believed to have been breached as early as February 2022 by weaponizing the vulnerability to add a new exclusion tool to Windows Defender that allows the entire C drive. Doing so made it possible for the adversary to download a PowerShell script without triggering any antivirus scans, which in turn retrieved the XMRig cryptocurrency mining software hosted on a remote server in the form of a zip archive file. The initial access further afforded the actors to fetch more payloads such as PSExec, Mimikatz, and ngrok, in addition to using RDP for lateral movement and disabling Windows Defender on the endpoints. The threat actors also changed the password for the local administrator account on several hosts as a backup should the rogue domain administrator account get detected and terminated. Also detected was a unsuccessful attempt at dumping the local security authority subsystem service process using the Windows Task Manager, which was blocked by the antivirus solution deployed in the IT environment. Microsoft, in a report last month, revealed that cybercriminals are targeting credentials in the SAS process owing to the fact that it can store not only a current user's OS credentials, but also a domain admin's. Dumping LSAS credentials is important for attackers because if they successfully dump domain passwords, they can, for example, then use legitimate tools such as PSExec or Windows management instrumentation to move laterally across the network. I have included the link to the CISA.gov site for this threat. There you will find the technical details along with the incident response, the mitigations, and how to validate security controls. So there's a lot of info on what to do if you fall into a victim into this category. There's a lot of information on their site that's available. That's it for this week. Thank you again for joining me on Talk Nerdy to Me. Have a great weekend. Rumbleverse. See you next time. And get ready for the World Cup. Starts this Sunday. Enjoy.